Hello everyone, this is Suneve, and I'm coming to you with Cruelest of Hearts, an Eyeless Jack X Reader by Vivian R. Ragu. We're going to be starting off at Chapter 25, Blackout. All you were able to hear was your own heartbeat pounding weakly inside your ears. It was a strange, fleeting sound, like the heartbeat belonging to a small bird that was wounded and struggling with all the sheer willpower that was left inside its small body to survive. To push itself to its limits and surpass them, all in a desperate try to live and see the daylight shining over the tall mountain peaks, to hear the water running through the luxurious forest and feel the air rushing under its wings as it flies as far up as it can, all in a desperate attempt to touch freedom's silver lining. If you thought about it, it was rather strange that inside the nightmare situation which posed the most severe threat you had ever come across in all your life, you were able to hear the faint heartbeat. Look past the shots of pain that threatened to make you fall down and scream till your lungs gave out. The sound was kind of comforting, like an old friend that had returned to help you take the first step into a journey that would most definitely be the very last one you would have. And why? Because you had just decided to seal your very own fate. You had just decided to practically kill your own self by running out of the room which protected you and was now invaded by a ruthless, monstrous killer, and run out to the rest of the house which consisted of these entities. And let's face it, after the man that invaded the room and even looking back to what Jack had become, you were more than simply sure that the killing entities which occupied the house were nothing along the lines of human. How you felt about it, if this particular fact scared you more or not, you weren't sure yourself, since all that prevailed inside your mind at this fatal hour was your pounding will to survive, to get the hell out of here and escape from this nightmare. And your body was obeying your every command for the first time. It didn't matter that you practically felt your broken ribs melting inside your chest from the pain which resonated from them. It didn't matter that your bruise from the kick's belly was contracting and making your breath hitch. It didn't even matter that your broken hand was curled up in a tight fist despite the pain. All that mattered was your own 2 feet, which were taking one step after another and another, advancing forward and practically ejecting you to run with all your might inside the narrow corridor with the sea of closed doors passing by you. Pain was literally the only thing that was offered by your own body to feel, and at the same time the only thing that was completely cut off from your brain, since the forests of your mind were set ablaze with a single scream which ordered you to run. It was pounding along with your heart, filling up the spaces of both your unconscious and conscious mind, being raised to meet with your very own troubled heartbeats. If you had any other choice, you were just unable to find out. All you could do was obey and run as fast as you can. The ground that spread under your feet was the perfectly steady footing you needed to do just that. Even if it was made of worn-out wood, appearing almost bluish-black under the complete lack of any windows which would only enable the darkness to prevail regardless of the bright winter day outside. It made it hard to see where you were going, but still let you know where the holes in the floor were, not too big for you to fall inside, but big enough to trap your unsuspecting feet and break them. And you couldn't afford not being able to run at this point. Your feet hurried down the hallway as you ran and never looked back, your steps reverberating like gunshots inside the death-like silence that prevailed. A sea of closed and locked wooden doors spread on both sides of the corridor, appearing black and menacing, holding inside even more monsters than what you could handle. You dared not open not even a single one of them. Say it's the smell of death that was hovering in the air so thick that you could practically grasp it, able to make your stomach turn and your conscience struggling not to hurl. Or the screaming instincts inside your head, the idea never even crossed your mind. Deep down, you knew that opening one of the doors could easily lead to a pile of rotting corpses and tormented souls that still plagued these walls. And if that was the case, all hope for survival would be lost. That, and the fact that the man who broke into Jack's room was hot on your tracks. At first you knew that it took him a little bit to realize that what you had just done to him, that you, a mere human, had dared to fight him back even with unfair methods, providing yourself with some precious few seconds to distance yourself from him as much as you could, before you heard a loud animalistic scream of pure hate and malice, followed by the violent vibrations that resonated with each threatening step he took behind you. His boots landing against the floor and catapulting him against you. Giving into your curiosity and terror, you turned only for a single moment to see how far behind he was, and immediately screamed with all the power your injured lungs could give you as you saw him running after you, bloody kitchen knife at hand, with his unblinking eyes fixated solely on you. This was what your brain needed to quicken your steps even more. Even if he wasn't that close to you, you could still feel his hot, disgusting breath grazing the back of your neck, sending shivers of pure horror down your spine. You could feel his hands wrapping around you, ready to shred you to pieces, his knife pushing your skin, ready to plunge itself inside your delicate skin. Paranoia and despair had started to take over you long ago. "Come back here, you bitch," you heard his deranged voice scream, exactly when you ejected yourself out of the corridor and stopped right in front of a few banisters that led to a grand staircase. A strong wave of relief pierced your heart when you gazed over the stairs, only to see the small space of an entrance hall. The big door was standing among 2 brightly lit windows, which allowed this rich sunlight to rush inside and offer you a clear view to the outside, through their almost transparent curtains. On the left side of the room rested a worn-out living room, and on the right, a dining room. If you went down the stairs and managed to reach that door without getting caught by the deranged man, you would be able to escape this hellhole once and for all. Or at least you would hope so. Still, the relief you felt was shortly brushed away when your gaze fell on the opposite side of the staircase, across where you were standing. And suddenly, the man running behind you was not your only problem. There were 2 other men standing on the space across from you, one leaning casually against the door, having folded his hands under his chest, and the other one standing right across from him. As the eternally smiling man's voice reverberates like a gunshot through the closed space. Both heads turn towards you, and you can't help but let out a piercing scream the moment their eyes fall on you. The man leaning against the wall must have surely been around his early 20s, maybe only 19 years old, just like you. He had short, messy, chestnut brown hair that was falling loosely over his ears, brushed towards the left side in a clear attempt to be tamed and only ending up protruding towards every possible direction. He was a bit taller than you and definitely shorter than Jack, and he was just as pale as the white wall behind him. He was wearing a pair of orange goggles, which kind of altered the real color of his eyes under the lens, and a mouthpiece was hanging loosely under his chin. There were 2 other things frightening on this man. First, it was the pair of bloody hatchets hanging from each side of his waist, the blood dripping down to the stained floor, and secondly, the left side of his mouth, up until the middle of his cheek, was all chewed in, revealing his dentation and gums that were underneath. The other one was around your own height, and was clearly the exact opposite from the first man, who was apparently around 23 or older from all that you could see, with dark brown hair that was neatly brushed to the right side, and he was well built, with broad shoulders and a sturdy chest, but wasn't all that muscular from what you could see. His face was covered completely by a white mask with black markings that gave it a more feminine vibe, and looking straight at where his eyes should be, you could swear that you caught a glimpse of brown eyes. And from the way they were standing against each other, you could swear that they had just interrupted from a huge fight, hearing the man's yell and turning to see what was happening. But to tell you the truth, you didn't tag along to learn whatsoever, so as you took a right turn and started literally flying down the stairs 3 steps at a time, all at the same time being careful not to fall down. "Stop her, she's a fucking human," the man screamed behind you yet again, but you had long ago jumped the last steps that remained. Your hands immediately shot up to grab the doorknob with everything you had, twisting it with all the power you could produce, and to your ultimate horror, the door didn't even move an inch. And as reality kicked in, you realized that it was locked. Locked. You were trapped. Still, before your brain was able to process all the information and come up with a possible plan, a slight movement caught your eye and your head turned to your right, only for you to let out another piercing scream. There, on the dining room, stood the most horrifying clown you had ever seen in your entire life. He was tall, way taller than both you and Jack, and he was deprived from any possible color. He had medium, long, coal-black hair that reached down to his chin and was so rough that reminded you out of a mop, followed by a pair of gray eyes, black lips, and oh my god, was that a cone nose? As your eyes took in all the information at once, you realized that he was dressed in an outdated clown costume that was still black and white, with bandages wrapped around his stomach and unusually prolonged hands which were holding a little girl. The existence of the small, unprotected girl almost threw you off balance, making you take a small step towards the direction, wanting to save her from the potential killer. That was until your eyes blinked and for the first time you saw the girl for who she really was. She had long, curly brown hair that cascaded down her small frame to reach her back, and she had the most stunning green eyes you had ever seen. She was wearing a little pink dress that was torn on the edges, and she was covered from head to toe in blood, which was dripping down her face constantly. Her curious eyes studied you with excitement, but you were harshly brought back to reality when you saw the unblinking man starting to come down the stairs. "Stop her!" he screamed, but it was already too late for pretty much anyone to grab you. Your head turned towards the window on your left, and your brain focused, pushing away the information about where you were and who was after you, focusing solely on the window. Adrenaline rushed through your veins in abundance, fueling your aching heart dangerously, making the pain resonate through your chest almost unbearable. You ignored it and inhaled deeply, and the glass of the window shattered into a million pieces, and your fragile body landed inside a mayhem of broken glass and wood, a painful result of your decision to throw yourself against the window. And what were you supposed to do? It was the only way out since the door was locked and the killers were closing in on you. The glass wounded your exposed hands and feet severely, gracing you with various new wounds and cuts as you struggled to get up and run far away from this hellish place. The shimmering broken glass matched perfectly with the newly fallen snow of the bright day outside, and the cold air penetrated your skin from every possible direction, making both your failing heart and your wounds worse, far worse than they should be. And trying your best to keep your legs from further damage, you can clearly hear the commotion coming from inside the house, and ignoring the dripping blood from your wounds, you get up, letting out a pained growl and start running once again. The open garden and forest are spreading right in front of you as you catapult yourself on the snow, stepping on at the exact same time that the front door of the house bursts open. You ignore both in the coldness of you focus solely on getting inside the woods as fast as you can, praying that this is the right thing to do. And behind you, more voices resonate and yell indistinctly, making the fact that they were hot on your track so clear that you don't even need to look back to see. Tears of utter horror bubble on the edges of your eyes, and you try to blink them away. And then that's when you see it. Him. The flash of the all-too-familiar navy blue registers inside your mind like an extremely hot iron, and for the second time in your life, you are so glad that you see Jack. That a huge smile graces your face as a sob bursts through your lungs. Jack! Jack! The man was just coming out of the trees, leaving behind him the protective shadows of the forest and entering the clear field of the gardens, his head looking downwards in a gesture that you knew meant he was thinking deeply. And for a split second, your mind realized that he looked rather calm and relaxed, meaning he was able to fulfill all the chores he had in mind before you moved out, and you sadly admitted to yourself that with how things ended up, you wouldn't even have the chance to live together. So when your voice echoed through the silence and reached him, his head perked up in confusion as the moment his eyeless stare fell on your running, bloodied figure. You saw him tilt his head to the side before his shoulders straightened in the very next second, his hands leaving his pockets, scalpel at hand, when he finally noticed why you were outside and who was chasing after you. And from your point, you only flailed your hands in the air, allowing the tears to cascade down your face as you ran for your life. Jack, they're after me. Help me. Help. Suddenly, your voice was drowned away. The luxurious sound of your voice was completely erased from the passing wind, allowing the bone-chilling silence of the day to take up the lost space, making a shiver of complete surprise mixed with horror go down Jack's spine. Suddenly, you were not running anymore. But your feet came to a stop right in the middle of the huge space with you, Jack and your pursuers freezing on spot at the sight of your immovable figure. Why had you stopped? At first, your brain was unable to process the sudden information, allowing you to think clearly. You were still being pursued by murderous entities that wanted to kill you in every torturous way they could master up. And you had managed to get out and out of a pure miracle find Jack and your only means and a mere possibility of salvation. Yet, what had your body done? It stopped. It simply stopped right in the middle of the white meadow, leaving you to your racing breath that was the only thing sounding right now. And like on cue, all nature seized its movements and sounds, as if the whole world was holding its breath. There was something different. You could feel it, but what was it? The sound of your breathing was the only thing that reached your ears. Your heartbeat had completely ceased. All this time, for the moment the littlest man attacked you, your chest was resonating and pounding with pure pain that pushed your failing heart to its limits, and now, after all the things that happened, it finally stopped. Without controlling it, you feel your hand fly up to cover the spot your heart was located under. As your lips half opened to say something, really say anything to Jack, who was watching in horror until his instincts kicked in and he started running towards you with all the speed he had in him. But instead of words, a waterfall of black blood choked you, falling and staining the pure white snow underneath your feet, only to be met by your knees that gave way under you, making you kneel. Your eyes never closed, but darkness engulfed you. Everything had worked out perfectly fine for Jack in his attempt to prepare the new house. He was extremely careful not to be followed as he ventured through the woods, and towards it he had cleaned the whole place up and prepared the necessary things that would be needed in order to safely move YN into it. And his small underground lab consisted of the most essential things in order to allow him to treat you if need be. Which he sincerely hoped it wouldn't, but with your broken heart, no one was really able to tell. When he was finally done and checked his work, he could only smile faintly under his mask and for all the work he had done. And now, the only thing that remained was getting you out of the mansion and undetected, and the both of you would be able to pick things up in a safer environment for you. That, of course, if you excluded Jack himself. However, that was an unavoidable evil. Everything was perfect, and you would be really happy to see all the things he had prepared. Yet, why did he feel uneasy? If anything, Jack was unable to feel even the slightest bit of worry up until nowadays. Yet at the moment, there was a weird feeling twisting and turning his guts unpleasantly, making him frown and rush to leave the house. Maybe he was just being paranoid because he left you back all alone, but he just couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen off from his shoulders. He had checked the woods as he was walking here. There was no sign of the master lurking around, so it was safe to say that he was occupied far away from here. So what was it? Whatever the feeling of dread that had made its way into his stomach, the man pondered over it and all the way back to the mansion, his feet leading the way mechanically, accustomed to the years of walking towards the same direction. Jack. Jack was so engulfed in his own thoughts that he barely heard you screaming his name from across the gardens of the mansion. In surprise, he looked up to meet with your horrified brown orbs as you were currently running towards him at full speed, flailing your hands in the air as a desperate attempt to get his attention. What the hell were you doing out here? Didn't he precisely say that you were not to leave his room under any circumstances? Why are you... If Jack was still mortal after all this time, his own heart would have stopped in front of the image of you running away from the mansion, with Jeff hot on your tracks and some of the mansion's residents standing at the threshold. It was truly a scene out of Jack's most dreadful nightmare from the moment he realized who you were and what you meant to him. Cold sweat instantly bathed him, and he took a scalpel out of his pocket to rush by your side immediately, and defend you with everything he had, even if that meant going up against all of them. But once again you managed to surprise him unpleasantly. The moment he was ready to run up to you, you simply stopped. You simply seized all of your movements and remained still right in the middle of the field. All bystanders, including himself, were struck by surprise, but Jack was faster than anyone to see what was wrong. He didn't need the black blood that dripped down from your mouth alerting him that you were coughing up his own blood to know that it was what was happening, because the silence coming from your part was enough evidence that your heart was stopping. Wyan, he screamed long before he managed to realize what he was doing. His body acted up out of its own volition, ejecting him as fast as possible towards you, a magnetic pull that was so strong it was desperate. It didn't matter that the rest of the killers were watching. It didn't matter that he had just admitted that you belonged to him. All that really mattered was getting you close to him right now. He could clearly see your eyes starting to become hazy, your knees subsiding and making you kneel in the snow. But before you had the chance to fall completely down, his sturdy hands were wrapping around you protectively as his body followed yours in the soft snow. His face searching yours through the mask to see any indication of consciousness. And there was none. Your eyes were staring back at his empty own, but there was no fire behind them, no spirit resting and making them alive. Your heart was taking a few very faint beats, too slow to keep you alive. And without a moment's hesitation, he lays you back on the snow, reaching for the special injection that he always had on him since he met you. He raises his hand in the air and stabs you right in the heart with a serum of adrenaline mixed with the right medicine for your condition. The transparent liquid enters your system immediately, only for Jack to place his hands above your heart and start to compress again and again, trying to help both your heart begin to beat once again and the serum to spread through your system and help you. All at the same time with calling your name and literally begging you to hold on. 1, 2, 3. The man presses again and again, his movements becoming desperate with the passing minutes and your unresponsiveness. It was at the very same moment that you cough up another round of black blood, and Jack realizes you had trouble breathing. His hands fly to your head, leaning it back to lifting the chin forward to clear your airway, only for a choking sound to come out. You were drowning inside your own blood, and if he wanted to save you, he had to do something, and to do something fast. Without a single moment's hesitation, Jack reaches for his mask with one of his hands, proceeding to literally rip it off his face and throw it mindlessly back, before he closed your nose and inhaled deeply and connected his lips with your own. His breath immediately fills your lungs, reaching deep down into your chest and filling it with all too precious air which was needed for survival, an action that was repeated once and again, for before Jack returned to giving you another round of compressions, all at the same time talking to you to come back, to breathe and wake up. It took the man 2 whole minutes that seemed like a true eternity of helping your heart beat and breathing for you, before you heard the sharp sound of your lungs filling with air on their own and your heart starting to beat once again. Finally, come on, Wyan, breathe. He whispered, picking your torso up to enclose you into a sturdy embrace, relieved beyond any comprehension. It was only after your arrival that any logical thinking returned to him, and he looked up, only to meet the surprised glares of his comrades and realize what had just happened. The secret about you was out. That is the end of that chapter. The chapter to that one is chapter 26, Exile. This is getting interesting. That's a little cliffhanger. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about that, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Until next time, bye-bye.